Welcome to The Edge with Mark Delavan. A world-renowned operatic baritone who's been around the world literally and figuratively with his fair share of victories and defeats. We will answer your burning questions, we'll interview people who we can learn from, and we'll engage in discussions worth having. No topic is off limits.
We're back and we're talking about music. So because we're talking about music and two musicians and artists, I'm sitting in front of my guitar wall. And I promise there will be a segment on that. Each one of those guitars has a story. I'm an amateur guitarist, but I really enjoy it. And my wife wanted me to get them off the floor and out from under the bed and all that kind of stuff. So we put them on the wall, and they're safer that way. And at the time I had little kids and they were going to destroy them at some point, and I didn't want that to happen. We've got two questions on the floor. The first one is pretty simple. When do I get a manager? I just got out of college and I'm ready for a manager. No, you're not. Okay, first, that's putting the cart before the horse. Matthew Epstein, one of my favorite people on the planet, one of my favorite managers, and one of the great minds and ears in classical music, says it this way. You're ready for a manager when you have something to manage. Okay, that's a little harsh. Let me flesh that out. It works the same with an agent. You're ready for an agent when you have something to represent, when you have something to put out there. Let me explain managers and agents. When it comes down to it, their measure of success is money. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't make them bad people. What it does is it's bringing reality home here. And please, you will listen to them talk and they will say one of their favorite things is when they have grabbed up a young artist and they've nurtured them and they've given them jobs and they've fought for them to get small roles and then big roles, and then all of a sudden they get their Met debut and they're doing a kind of an aria and they're sitting out the audience and they feel like a proud parent. My manager talks about this all the time. It's one of her favorite things is cultivating new talent. It's one of the greatest moments of their lives. They've told me about it. But when it comes down to the real nitty-gritty of it all, it's about money. So when they're going to take on a young artist, they're going to lose money. Because let's face it, when a young artist goes out there and an opera company or a musical theater company or a repertory company says, I'm going to engage this young artist, but I'm going to pay them dirt. They know they can get you because it's about supply and demand. And there's a lot of you out there and there's very little demand. So they can pick and choose whoever they want. Now, that's not bad. That's not good. It's just a statement of how things are. You go out there and you work your butt off for your chump change, and then you have to pay them 10% of that chump change. How much money do you think that is? You think they're making any money? Now, they pushed like hell to get you that job. And they work their buns off to get you that job. But they're not getting paid a whole lot for it. So they're talking about the big term investment, right? Okay, so think about it from their point of view. You think you're ready for an agent because you graduated and you were voted the best performing artist of your whole department. Well, that's great. But that's not. There's a whole big gap between that place and getting you on the stage, getting you on Broadway, or getting you in front of City Opera, getting you in front of Michael Capasso of New York City Opera, or Peter Gelb of the Metropolitan Opera, or my friend Christopher Hahn at the Pittsburgh Opera. They want to go where the fire is hot. So what's your job as a young artist? Create the fire. There is a whole lot of stuff that you can do in between point A and point B. So let me give you some tips. First of all, one of them is you guys know way better than I do. Social media. Anytime you do something live, anytime you put some kind of a live production together, and I know there's nothing now, but there will be, okay? And I'll get to that too. You put something together that's live, you make sure that somebody tapes it. And if you sing well, put it out there. If you don't, delete it and give it another shot. There are plenty of places where you could go out, stand out on a street corner with a taped version of your accompaniment and still make a stir, okay? It's about presence. It's about your physical energy that you're putting out for these people. All right? If you're standing out on a street corner and you whip your little mask off and you sing an aria, you're creating a stir, aren't you? All right? You're making the fire happen. Every time you do a performance, a live performance in front of an audience, tape it. Get your phone out. Have somebody tape it. Okay? It doesn't matter the quality. What they're looking for two things. They're looking for your stage presence, and they're listening for the quality of their voices, and 9 out of 10 of them have really good ears and they know what they're listening for. Okay? If your voice can get to that microphone that's sitting about halfway back, they know that they want to watch you for a little while. Okay? If you're doing an opera, at school and it's with orchestra, have somebody sit out there with a camera and tape your aria. Don't tape the whole opera. They're not going to look at it. They're going to look down there at the timestamp and they're going to see 3 hours and 5 minutes. Are you kidding? They don't have a lot of time. I'll give you a good example of that. I've been going in for musical theater auditions for a while. And one of the things they keep saying is they say, your best 16 bars, your best 24 bars, cut down your audition to a minute and a half. Well, no song is a minute and a half. The shortest ones are 3 minutes. So you have to figure out, okay, so with an opera aria, if it's a long aria, if you're doing Zerbinetta's aria and you're doing the whole thing, cut it down to the rondo, okay? If you're doing Zerlina's aria from Don Giovanni, take the shortest one. If you're doing Mazzetto, do Mazzetto's aria. If you're doing the title role in Don Giovanni, do Finca del Vino because it's the shortest. And if you get a chance to tape De Viene la Finestra, tape that. You see the point I'm making? If you're doing Figaro, if you're doing The Marriage of Figaro, tape Se vuol ballare. And if you're doing Figaro, take Se vuol ballare. If you're doing Susanna, tape De Vieni non tardar and maybe one of the duets. If you're doing Carabino, you got lots of choices there. If you're doing the Countess, do Porgy Amor. My point is, and if you're doing musical theater, and if you have to cut it up, if you have to take the last half of it, do that. Point is, you guys have options. You have if you're having performance opportunities, take them. Make sure that they're out there, and you send links to these people. Okay. The other thing you do is you avail yourself of young artist programs, and I'll tell you why. Because young artist programs are always visited by general directors and managers' agents. Because the word gets around, the general director and the person that's in charge of the young artist will say, hey, we've got a really good young mezzo that we want you to hear. Please come up and see. She's doing such and such and such and such, and they will be doing this in their scenes program. Every young artist program that's out there, every summer AGMA young artist program out there in opera has opportunities for singers. Now, I don't know much about summer stock with regards to musical theater, but I'm betting you if there's opportunities for your singers you guys to be seen. And actors, do small roles and film a little bit of it. Get somebody out there to film your little section, your little scene. Do monologues online. Okay. But you've got this young artist program and you've got these people that are going to come and see you perform. Okay? For instance, Chautauqua has a recital series. What a phenomenal opportunity. Get somebody back there with the camera and put it on film. Okay? There is, in Santa Fe, there's an apprenticeship evening where they do scenes from operas, arias, scenes, duets, trios, etc. Okay? Here's the secret. Everybody and their dog comes to those. General directors, agents, managers, people who are interested in young singers. And they will basically come and they will see all 4 operas in a weekend. And then they'll wait and see on Sunday night, they'll see the apprenticeship programs. Why? Because everybody's looking for the next young talent, the next hot thing. That's how you create a fire. Okay? You create a fire by any opportunity that you get, you make sure that it's documented. Okay? That's the answer to that question. This person writes, during the pandemic, I haven't had any work of any kind. I was doing pretty well there for a while. I am despondent. I am despairing. I am depressed. I don't know what to do. Do you have any advice? Yeah, I do. I really do. First of all, you need to bear in mind the really important part of all of this that we're all kind of having to figure out together. When they use the phrase, we're in this together, that's not metaphor or hyperbole. We are all collectively screwed. All right? That's harsh. But you know what I mean? We in the performing arts are collectively screwed. They shut us down first. I was at the Metropolitan Opera one day in March, and then the next day I wasn't. I just so happened to not have a rehearsal that day, but I had a buddy that did, and they were escorted from the building, and it was locked. One day we were singing, the next day we weren't. Broadway was just as bad. Broadway shut down that same week. Every single show, they just canceled all the shows and said, everybody go home. Now, if you think about something as traumatic as that, it's going to take several weeks for that to kind of internalize, right? So we're literally, all of us are collectively screwed. Okay, that doesn't help anything, but it does help to remember the fact that we're all in this together. There are 3 things to bear in mind here. The first of these is a 2-word sentence that uses bad English. Ready? Artist's art. And in that case, I'm using art as a verb, not a noun. So, let me tell you what I'm talking about. Writers write, singers sing, actors act, dancers dance. Okay? Keep your chops up. Okay? If you're a trumpet player, go somewhere where you can play your horn. If you're a French horn player, sit down and play your horn. Go through your scales. Go through a concerto. Have somebody play the accompaniment for a concerto and play through the concerto. Learn new repertoire. If you're a singer, sing. Have somebody tape an accompaniment and email it to you and sing your brains out. Okay? If you're an actor, go through your monologues. Put your camera up and go through your monologues. Go back and look at it and refine it. Okay? Keep your chops up. Number 2, do you have a secondary art form? Why not? I have a couple of them, okay? Get a secondary art form. No, I'm not saying become the next Grandma Moses, okay, or George O'Keeffe. No, I'm just saying if there's something that interests you, now's the time, okay? Are you interested in pottery? Go take a pottery class. They're still out there. Everybody's wearing masks, but they're still teaching pottery. Metalwork, welding. I'm interested in welding. I'm interested in bladesmithing. We'll get into that. That's another session. Okay? I also draw. I also do woodwork. Okay? You interested in woodwork? Go for it. Now's the time. Why? The same reason as the reason before. Because you're doing something. And also, if you think about singing or dancing or doing your monologues or playing your horn or playing your instrument or something, you feel better. Okay? If you do a secondary art form, if you're sitting around drawing for a half an hour and you look up and you say, that's not a bad sketch, you feel better. You're doing something. The worst part of the pandemic is just being shut up and doing nothing. That is death. Don't succumb to that. All right? And let's face it, the other thing about despondency and despair and depression is also death. Don't do that either. You know what I'm talking about. Third thing is definitely about feeling better. Get some exercise. Okay? If you have trouble running, don't run. Walk. You know what? I have trouble running, but I'm running anyway. I'm up to 2 miles. And for an old guy like me, that's really saying something. I ran 3 times this week. I ran 3 times last week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I worked out with weights 2 days this week. And next week, by the time you see this video, I will have worked out 3 times that week. Okay? Do something. If you don't have a gym, do push-ups, do sit-ups, do squats, do stuff. Get your blood moving. Get some endorphins in there. Why? You know why. So that you feel better. Okay?
Thank you for joining our ongoing conversation. Please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber, which further enables us to deliver high-quality material to you. Click the Patreon link below, where you'll see different tiers of subscriptions. We'll make it worth your while.
spread.